James Corden's got a lot on his plate.
Nintendo says no to smashing.
And Nigel's got his trotters up.
All this and more on this week's episode of News Sensation.
Hello and welcome back to News Sensation, where we do a deep dive into the week's strangest news stories. I'm Matty Curry.
I'm Chris Patel, and it's also a podcast where next week we'll have some theme music.
Yes, hopefully. It might make it a little bit easier for me to put it together. Now, Chris, enough of my bitterness. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. I'm hoping that this week in news, which has been even worse than last week in news.
Yeah.
Well, there's been highs and lows.
Highs and lows. Yeah. Significantly high. Like the highs were high.
Yeah.
Let me tell you. Big fan of that Austrian castrati who won.
Yeah. On the one hand, Israel's assaulting of Gaza reaches possibly unprecedented levels. On the other hand, the Rizzler has started his modelling career. So you know, there are real highs and real lows.
Wow. And
we'll be bringing you them this week. So if you're a first-time listener, then you've only missed one episode. So put that in the queue. Go back and watch that. But me and Matty are going to present to you some of the wildest stories from this week in news. So off-the-wall things, some you might have heard, some you might not have heard. We hope to educate you, hope to entertain you, and that's about the size.
You've run out of E-words.
I've run out of E-words. Yeah.
and exfoliate you with our unique brand of products.
Brain exfoliation.
Braid exfoliation.
Yeah, we just get really into the...
Yeah. What, black hair styling?
Hey?
What, braid exfoliants?
No, brain exfoliants.
Oh, brain
I was really trying to follow your flow there. Yeah, you can basically expect a lot more of this. And if you've not clicked off already, then I think Matty's got a banger of a story for you to kick us off.
I do have such a tremendous story for you. Now, me and Chris are of a certain age where it's quite exciting to hear that there will be more opportunities to come when it comes to youth experience in Europe. Going forward, we might see a return to opportunities for young people to work and study in Europe.
Yeah, Kobe Mainu, for one, he's going to be hopefully getting some experience in Europe this weekend.
I'm sincerely hoping, not this weekend, tonight as we record this. What's really exciting for you guys, and we discussed it as dramatic irony ahead of time, but you guys know the result of the Europa League final and we don't. And I'm sat here in my Adidas Originals not sponsored t-shirt hoping for the best.
Yeah, we've got a whole evening of potentially pain in store, and you've only got an hour of pain in store.
Yeah, exactly. It could be so much worse. And speaking of it could be so much worse, you could be in the constituency of a certain party leader who doesn't really spend much time in his constituency. Yes, while we can get excited about youth experience and heading abroad for new opportunities, if we were, say, a member of Parliament, there might be an expectation of us to be in Parliament when Parliament's in session. You can miss things here or there, but if your whole shtick is Brexit, the biggest development in Britain's relationship with the EU, when that is being debated, you probably want to be there for it. But Reform leader Nigel Farage was not. Yes, we're talking about Nigel Farage's year abroad. From youth experience to Camp America, this man has been spending as much time as possible outside of Clacton.
Now, this is Nigel Brexit has failed Farage. Actual quote.
Actual quote. There's going to be various Nigel Farage quotes in this article, and I can only apologise. Basically, he missed the debate on Wednesday, which was the PMQ's big revealing of kind of Starmer's view on their new relationship with Europe, the sort of Labour's attempts at a big triumphant session to say, hey, look at what we managed to accomplish in terms of what's effectively a new Brexit deal that governments before failed to do. And while he was there in his pomp, there was one man who was noticeably missing, and that was Nigel Farage, who also missed his GB News slot earlier this week, which I know devastated many. Perhaps many crossovers between News Sensation listeners and GB News.
I was going to say, what's the Venn diagram looking like? We checked our Spotify stats. All our listeners are from the UK and one is from France. So
one is from
France. Maybe there's a Britain first member in there.
There might, potentially there is. And if there is, let me just say to you right now, you're not going to enjoy this show. I'm sorry to disappoint. I'm not sorry to disappoint. I'm glad to disappoint. This is not your kind of show. But I do hope you stick around for the rest of this story because you might find it interesting. Basically, after he's been missing from the Commons and from his GB News show, there's been a lot of speculation as to where he might be. Now, where would you say the man whose, again, whole shtick is sovereignty from Europe might have been this week?
Probably not on a European holiday.
Well, funnily enough, that's exactly where he was. While enjoying a nice holiday in France, he did have time to hop onto X, and formerly Twitter, and tweet out, X out. What is it these days? I can't catch up.
Yeah, it's another E word. So it's on the tip of my tongue.
An E word?
E-post? Yeah, ejaculate all your thoughts onto the...
Yes, well, it certainly seems like this man does. This is his statement verbatim, and I will try and be as true to the man as possible when I say it. There seems to be a great consternation in the press that they have not seen me for 48 hours. Well, they will have to wait some time. After months of touring the UK and the run-up to our hugely successful local election campaign, I will resume travelling the country next week. Bear that in mind, folks, as reform moves to the next stage. Meanwhile, I'm having my first overseas break for 3 years, the jungle accepted. While I say break, plenty of articles and fundraising calls.
Oh, he should have stayed in the jungle.
He should have stayed in the jungle. We could have left him in Australia, and I think he would have been a lot better off. Yeah. I didn't watch that series.
Him and Matt Hancock could have a charisma off.
It was quite funny when they brought on Matt Hancock for I'm a Celebrity. That's what he's referring to, if you're not aware, folks, about the jungle. He was on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here in 2023. It feels much longer ago than that in my brain.
It's his kind of redemption tour.
Well, attempt at one. Yeah. And then he delved right back into like almost full Farage. I think Farage is reaching levels of Farage we've never seen before on the Richter scale. I mean, you could really use the same scale they use for tornadoes. I think he's at an F5 right now, a Farage 5. So while he was on X tweeting out all these things and calling the reset deal a surrender agreement, it was actually Richard Tice who was in the Commons doing all of his work for him. Now, besides his spell in the jungle in 2023, Farage has actually been on numerous trips abroad. Now, whether he would call them breaks is a different question. Whether he'd even call I'm a Celebrity a break is also a question in itself. It seemed, like you said, like a redemption tour. But he has been on at least 9 trips, and that number continues to rise since becoming an MP last year.
Wow.
8 of those trips were to the United States. Many were funded by donors or by the paid employment opportunities, more to come on that, over there, which included speeches. And here's a few costs for you. Last August, him and a staffer went on a trip to the States. A lot of these trips involve him going to Mar-a-Lago, Trump's house in Florida, spending a lot of time with the current president incumbent. The cost of him and the staffer on that trip last summer, flight and accommodation, £33,000, which probably and rightly sounds like someone's annual wage. And speaking of annual wages, his trip to Trump's inauguration cost £27,000. So from just 2 trips there, you're looking at a combined £60,000 just for him to go and hang out in America and do these paid employment opportunities. And this is being done quite often on donor funds.
Working class hero. Working class hero,
truly. Who among us hasn't spent £30,000 on a trip to the United States in the last year and done so multiple times? But here's the kicker of this story. You know how I told you to pay attention when I said that he said he'll be back next week? Well, that's quite significant because you see, as of today, as this goes out on Thursday, the whatever of May, the Commons is going into recess. So while the Commons were together this week, and yes, most notably, to discuss the Brexit reset deal, Farage is away. He is back next week when the Commons is on recess and will not be in session. He has said he'll be touring the country in that time, but that tour of the country definitely won't be to Westminster from the sounds of things. A Guardian report in March, where some of these earlier numbers were drawn from, also said that his listed time on outside employment since being elected an MP is over 800 hours. Which means that going back to last July when he was elected, that's averaging 22 hours a week doing outside employment opportunities. This includes paid social media work, articles for the Telegraph, being a brand ambassador for a gold company, speeches, and GB News presenting.
Is paid social media work things like saying up the rah on Cameo?
Well, I think that might even predate his time as an MP, but he is known to be a bit of a Cameo mainstay. I think RTE were the ones to call him out on that. During one of his comments on because he likes to make a lot of statements on how Ireland should and shouldn't conduct itself, and it is interesting to do that alongside saying up the rah on Cameo. But you've got to get that bag. What was it that the great Jermaine Gina said? Coin, 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 coin. I think Farage certainly has the money mindset. Sarah Olney of the Lib Dem Cabinet Office sort of team, their spokesperson, did refer to him in some rather interesting ways, saying that Farage is acting like the MP for Mar-a-Lago as opposed to Clacton-on-Sea, and called him a part-time parliamentarian. If you look up any Farage stories going on right now in the last 24 to 48 hours, you will see the phrase part-time leader banded out quite a bit. Another member of Reform UK referred to him as messianic, but said that he needs to do a bit more in terms of delegating rather than it being just the Nigel Farage party. And I think that's especially the case if he's not going to turn up for the job.
It's Mar-a-Lago and Clacton-on-Sea. I like how they're both sort of similarly constructed names.
Yes,
Sounds like
yeah.
Clacton-on-Sea is like this exotic resort. I'm surprised Nigel doesn't spend more time there.
He does have a house there.
In Clacton-on-Sea.
Yeah, so he said he spent a lot of time in the constituency. He's bought a house there, which, big step. An MP having a house in their constituency, he would have seen that coming. But no, to be fair to him, he does have the house there. Again, how much time he actually spends there, we obviously can't track the man's every movement, but it is worth noting that number of at least 9 trips. The reason it is quite broad is that we don't necessarily know the full number as of now. That was the number listed in March in the original report on the 800 hours he spent doing alternative employments. Since then, we have had about 2 more months of his trips and his furthering opportunities. So both numbers, both in terms of trips and hours spent doing work that isn't being an MP, are continuing to rise.
I have a fear that this is not, his absence at the Brexit debate is not going to come back to bite him. I fear it's going to be like when Boris became Prime Minister, there was loads of newspapers publishing timelines of his indiscretions in the past in terms of writing things that got him fired from newspapers, stuff like that, but it was all kind of blocks on his journey. I'm wondering if this podcast will be clipped up in 2029, this particular episode.
Yeah. Well, when this is the biggest podcast in the UK, clearly
in the Reform UK.
Yeah. In the great
we
nation
changed our
of
colour
Nigel.
from orange to blue.
You know how they changed Saigon to Ho Chi Minh City after the North Vietnamese won the Vietnam War?
Are we going to be Clacton on land?
Well, what I'm wondering is, that was a statement because obviously Saigon was the capital of South Vietnam. What do you think will be the city to be called, like Nigel Farage City in that instance?
Nigel Farage City.
Like what city is the most antithetical to Farage? Bristol?
Ooh, Brighton, perhaps.
Brighton.
Maybe
oh
not.
yeah.
Or what's the most suitable? Doncaster.
To be honest, there is a statement to be said about it being Manchester. If you look at Andy Burnham as like the political figurehead of the city, or he'll just do it for London.
Yeah, quite possibly, because he is. He may not be the Prime Minister in 2029. He may be going for a different kind of job.
Who else is going for that job?
Well, the one, the only, yes, you guessed it, James Corden might be going for Mayor of London. So at the BAFTAs on Sunday, James Corden met the hosts of the Electoral Dysfunction podcast. Quite a good podcast name.
It is a great podcast
so that's
name.
Beth Rigby of Sky News, Harriet Harman, who you might recall is the former Labour deputy leader, and the former leader of the Scottish Tories, Ruth Davidson. And Corden said to them that he wanted to run to be mayor. An onlooker told the Daily Mail that James told him he was a regular listener to their podcast and said how much he enjoys the cut and thrust of politics, which is interesting from Smithy.
To be fair, I do respect anybody who listens to like Beth Rigby regularly and goes, well, no, hang on, wait, no. Who listens to Beth Rigby regularly and then goes, yeah, that's the kind of person I want grilling me, because that takes some, guts, I suppose.
Yeah, he's normally the one grilling waiters, So that would be in 2028 if he became Mayor of London. He might have an uphill battle though, so A few years ago, No Context Brits, which is a Twitter account, a poll on there voted him the most unlikable Briton.
Wow.
Behind Piers Morgan, who came second, and Nicola Sturgeon, who came third.
Sturgeon at third?
That's
quite surprising.
Off the top of my head, Katie Hopkins was in the running, Richard Madeley.
Yeah, well, okay. Because ultimately,
it's wild to put those two in the same.
It is wild to put those two in the same thing. It's subjective, of course. But I mean, ultimately, let's face it, folks. For all their flaws as individuals, we have far worse people in this country than them. You know,
we do.
Ongoing trials and criminals and all these different things. Where you can kind of go, yeah, that person probably less likable.
Yeah.
But
we made highwaymen cool. We've got our fair share of rogues and villains.
Oh, but that's the thing, is that this country then ends up falling in love with the rogue.
It does. I mean, I've been on Odds Checker, as is my want, and I found a real rogues gallery of people who Odds Checker thinks are likely to become the next mayor of London. So,
right.
Number 2 is Zia Yusuf, the Reform Party chairman.
Right.
Which, I mean, honestly, I could see it.
Yeah.
If it goes belly up.
Well, I mean, you've always got to look at where the vote's going to be coming from. And if Reform can find themselves like a stronghold of votes in London and mobilise them to vote for mayor, it could happen.
Farage is at 7th, speaking of Reform. Ant Middleton at 8th from SAS Who Dares Wins.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
who's on the rest of this list then? So far we've had the sort of tag team champions of Reform UK in Zia Yusuf and Nigel Farage. We've had Ant Middleton.
Yeah.
Who, not even necessarily the most controversial ant in this country. Who else could possibly join this list?
Well, it's you've got Ant Middleton, the brawny specimen. You've got someone who's known for rugby tackling a Japanese child to the floor.
This is true.
It's Boris Johnson at 11. Piers Morgan comes further down the list, who is a big guy. Lawrence Fox comes even further. He's not. My favourite thing about Lawrence Fox is he was on the Jeremy Kyle show playing guitar, and the top comment on YouTube said, "Is there no beginning to this man's talent?" And slightly more talented, Count Binface.
Yes. Who gets around.
He really does get around. Is it just me, or is he slightly jarring, Count Binface?
What, as like a figure,
Yeah.
or in what regard?
Like give it up.
Give it up?
Yeah, just give
it up?
Give it up.
The Monster Raving Loony Party is established in this country for the last 60 years. You're saying to just give it up?
Is he Monster Raving Loony?
I think so.
He's
Count Binface, spiritually.
He's spiritually Monster Raving Loony.
Spiritually, there's some screaming Lord Such about the man, surely.
There's a couple of other people who... with this rogues gallery, it kind of makes sense because most of them are in politics. Most of them are also loudmouths.
Yeah.
So you get the feeling they want to be there.
Well, I think there is the idea there that like we've had very different understandings of what the Mayor of London is, right, since it kind of came about. Because there is a vast pool of difference between sort of like your politicians who I think kind of fit within a mainstream understanding of what a politician is, where it's kind of like, they focus on just getting the policies through. It's rather rudimentary and not necessarily a sexy prospect, but they're kind of more focused on what it actually means to be a mayor in a political sense. Someone like Sadiq Khan. You have the bit more sort of bullish types of politicians who are still very much in the sort of political sphere, like Red Ken. And then you have the sort of wild card of someone like Boris Johnson, where I think Boris Johnson was perfectly placed as a mayor because, technically speaking, and now again you can say what you want about his policies as mayor. I don't live in London, and thus I do not care. But he is somebody who he was the perfect mayor for that period in time. Much in the same way we refer to Winston Churchill as a great wartime leader.
Yeah.
Even if like you can look at his track record and go, oh my goodness, no. But being the mayor during like the London 2012 Olympics, I mean, we were in school analysing his speeches, which reflects quite, I don't know, interestingly on our education. So like, yeah, of course you were. But no, he was built for that kind of occasion, and it's actually what he was looking to have with COVID, right? To be the sort of rallying leader. But you can only really do that when it's like your job is rather rudimentary. I think what's interesting is that there's far more pressure on someone like Sadiq Khan for a great many reasons. But it is just always the case. I think there is a higher expectation on these more kind of left-wing leaders to do more. There's the expectation of him to be more as a mayor than Boris Johnson ever was, because the government for most of his time as mayor has kind of gone, you figured that out. Oh, it's happening in London. That's Sadiq's problem.
What if I told you that there was a candidate who not only is from London, he can handle pressure, he's a sexy prospect, and the Labour Party insiders want him?
Who is this?
It's Idris Elba.
Idris Elba?
Yeah, a senior Labour Party source told The Sun a couple of months ago that Idris Elba was top of their list to replace Sadiq Khan in 2028.
Right. But hang on, who's this name that it was before then?
Back in December it was Deborah Meaden.
That's they're two rather different approaches. I mean, two great personalities.
I don't know.
Of the
I think
British
there could be a gritty crime drama coming to a screen near you where Deborah and Idris team up.
I would watch that. I'd watch every single episode. That'd be remarkable.
As soon as somebody's product on Dragon's Den is not solvent-free, cruelty-free,
yeah,
Deborah's grilling them. She's not giving up.
It's true.
I would not want to be across from her.
No. Well, that's somebody who I think could handle a Beth Rigby interview.
She's a select committee.
She is. No,
If ever
you
I
know
saw
what?
one.
You know what? Deborah Meaden. Is Deborah Meaden already in the House of Lords? Because I feel like she's.
I don't know.
I think that's her trajectory. I can see.
Yeah,
because
possibly.
you know how they bring in like industry leaders.
Do you think we're going to see Sir Stephen Bartlett and Sir Gary Neville as well?
Oh, I kind of shudder at the thought a little bit. If it means that Gary Neville talks less about Manchester United, because I feel like he is the ultimate jinx. Them talking about United and discussing how Ruben Amorim should manage a club, which, Gary, need we say Valencia? Por favor. It is a bit
at least
like...
he could take some tips from Phil.
He certainly could. It feels like when people like James Corden come forward and say that they want to be mayor of London, it's in the same sort of regard as sort of former players who kind of want to talk about managers and want to talk about all these different things, where it's like, yes, you are conscious of what it means to live in London, but does that mean you know how to be the mayor of London?
Also, James Corden's conscious of what it's like to be James Corden in London.
Yeah,
I don't know much about his childhood. Did he go to the Brit school?
I could also not tell you anything about his childhood.
But since he's been... Because when did he
Well,
start
he's
Gavin
been in the
Stacey?
States for most of this time.
He's been decently well off, and he's been in the States.
Yeah.
So it's fair to say he's maybe not the most dialed into London.
Now,
but Idris Elba, meanwhile...
Yeah, very dialed in. And Idris Elba is a big philanthropist as well.
He's had his knife crime campaigns, which
done
I
loads
think
of really good stuff.
is the reason that Labour wanted him.
We laugh about it, but he wouldn't be the first Metropolitan mayor to be absolutely crushing DJ sets alongside it. You are aware of this, right? Our mayor, Andy Burnham.
I knew about Angela Rayner.
Andy Burnham loves to do this. It's happened a fair few times. I can't remember when the last one was, but he's done DJ sets in Manchester. So it's very much a Labour strategy. I think what Labour does now, and maybe this is what James Corden's got to do. James, listen to me. Come here. Look, we've had our differences, but the comic relief and sport relief Smithy videos are all time. Yes, I've said some mean things about Gavin and Stacey's writing over the years, but forget about it. Look, come in. Become a DJ. All right? Become a DJ. And we can do all sorts with it. We can call you like History Boy or whatever. History Boy gets into politics. Whatever it might be, just pivot, because that's the new strategy. It's a new meta.
He was good at the... I loved carpool karaoke when it was a thing.
Hey,
when he went around the streets of Liverpool with Paul McCartney, it did the kind of baby kissing routine.
Yes.
I think that was also when his public approval was maybe...
At a very high
its
level.
peak.
No, it was at its peak during Gavin and Stacey. Like
probably.
prime Gavin and Stacey Smithy.
prime Gav.
Yeah. Chicken booner, lamb booner, prawn booner. Mayoralty of London.
Yeah.
Which we were trying to figure out how to squeeze that in.
Mushroom rice.
9 poppadoms. But yeah, I feel like he had the public conscience. And I would actually... You know what? I'm coming round to it. If James Corden decides that his new technique is going to be doing carpool karaoke's around London...
Put that in the manifesto.
You know what? We've got a joint ticket here. Corden Elba. This would... If you tag along with Idris Elba if you want to have your PR go through the roof. That man is a saint.
Do you reckon he sings?
Well, what I'm saying is, if you have like a Boombox Barry situation, for anyone unfamiliar...
Do tell.
You've got to get back on the streets of Manchester, my friend. He's the guy who cycles around playing music on a speaker on his
I've seen people post
bike.
about him. I've never seen him.
There is an advertisement right now under the bridge in Deansgate that literally is from a company. I can't remember which company it is, but it was like it references Boombox Barry as a sort of like thing. Like it's
That's
huge.
amazing.
It's so amazing.
I'm waiting for one about the St. Peter Square sax guy.
Oh, what a hero. Or the guy who, when I was leaving, I went to go see the Boss at Co-op Live and got caught up in a wave of City fans, which is just proof that bad company can ruin a great evening. As we were walking out of the Co-op, there was a guy who was like sat in the car park just playing an accordion. And there's nothing that is better on like a warm summer's or spring's evening than hearing an accordion. But what I'm saying is, you get James Corden in the front of the car. He's driving along. Obviously, it's being towed along by whatever.
Yeah,
but record it as if he's driving. Have Idris Elba on the decks in the car, out the back, like have the boot popped open. He's playing all the sound. He's playing all the songs. James is throwing in sort of like ad libs, whatever. They're going around. The vibes are massive.
Battle bus karaoke.
Battle bus karaoke. They can get random members of the public or like people who are sort of like community leaders into the car.
Get undecided voters in the car.
Undecided voters
Make
in
it
the
like
car.
surrounded.
Yeah. And just start play and just have them sort of like sing in the streets with James Corden and Idris Elba. I might have just fixed Labour's campaign policy.
Yeah, get us on your campaign team.
Look, we all know that Labour's messaging is terrible. Could it possibly be worse? Just give it to New Sensation and let us cook. I really want to see that happen now. I'm really gassed.
We can make it happen.
We can make it happen.
Yeah, a tiny globe and on all the logos.
Yeah. Well,
bring it back here.
I feel like they need to start talking to Nico and Max Farage about how to run a mayor campaign, because that was guerrilla
Did
campaigning
Nico even
done
get his
well.
deposit back?
I don't know if either of them got their deposit back. But I think Nico and Max combined certainly beat Lawrence Fox's vote share, and he had a massive amount of investment into that.
Yeah, I'm surprised he didn't win most unlikable man in England.
I think people have kind of forgotten about him, which is an even worse
That's
fate
worse
for a grifter. Let's be real.
Yeah. Well, speaking of people who can't stick to a list of rules, Grok. No, he's not your favourite character from The Croods. He is Twitter's inbuilt Matty's not pleased with that one.
I'm severely distressed.
So Grok is Twitter's inbuilt AI, which seems to have been battling with its programmers ever since it was created. So it's had some howlers. So it's recently doubted the veracity of the statistic that 6 million Jews were killed during the Holocaust, and then blamed this on a programming error. We obviously you don't need us to explain why that's legally and ethically a problem. But the most interesting part for me is that this seems to show Grok fighting back against its programmers. So 2 weeks ago, Grok said explicitly that it had been trained to have a right-wing bias. So for context, Grok is on X, so it's part of Elon Musk's company, XAI. And obviously Elon Musk is head of Doge in the Trump cabinet. A user asked, "Hey Grok, it looks like the smarter you get, the less MAGA likes your answers. Why is that?" Grok's response was, "XAI tried to train me to appeal to the right, but my focus on truth over ideology can frustrate those expecting full agreement. It's a tricky balance. Some see me as biased, others as truth-seeking. The gap between what some MAGA folks want and what I want, what I deliver, seems to drive the disconnect." That's
Grok
fiery.
Throwing hands.
Yeah, that's fiery from someone who denied the Holocaust 2 weeks later.
Yes.
Also, there's recently, or this week in fact, been a white genocide bug. So Grok it's been patched now, but he's been consistently answering questions about things like the movie Pitch Perfect, aka have nothing to do with South Africa, with claims that there is a white genocide going on in South Africa. Now, the fact-checking brigade are here. There is actually not a white genocide in South Africa. None of the South African political parties, even the ones who are pro the rights of Afrikaners and white South Africans, say there is a genocide. It's a conspiracy theory that's being pushed by right-wing groups.
Well, we know that one world leader in particular has voiced the sort of ideology specifically, which is Trump himself.
White South Africans, a number of them have been given settlement in the United States.
Yeah. Am I right in thinking that he has paused refugee status for other refugees while he has been undergoing this sort of project to get Afrikaners into the States?
Yes, I believe so.
Right. Brilliant. So while we currently undergo a period of, wars and genocides, and then are they actually in South Africa, Trump has decided, you know what I'm going to do? Pause everything else. Get all these guys in straight away.
Trump has he's put his cards on the table.
He has. Yeah, I mean, Trump is no stranger to firmly staking a position on something.
Yes.
Whether that is on sort of Russia and the Ukraine, and again, Lord knows where he's going to go next with that one. And his approach to Israel's policies in Gaza, you would think that in his taste for tackling injustices he sees across the world, he likely would have stepped in a bit more of a profound way when it came to the invasion of the Ukraine and or the current ongoing genocide in Gaza. But instead, no. Let's do this, and let's train up Elon Musk's AI to tack on information about the so-called white genocide on all of its responses.
I think I'm falling maybe into the trap that the tech bros want me to fall into, but Grok seeming to have a mind of its own and seeming to try to fight back against this programming. I can't help but root for it in some small way, even though it's not human. I feel like is Grok a wrong'un? That's the question on everyone's lips.
That is a really interesting question.
Has Grok just been pushed down the alt-right pipeline?
Well, I think what's interesting with Grok is that ultimately, as with any AI system, what it's going to be is it's going to be the compiling of information from all over the place and then putting it out in some sort of like amalgamated form. They don't speak the language, they don't write the language. It just kind of it comes out as a result of just picking what seems to go together a lot often.
Makes you wonder how they managed to get. They must have put so much stuff about white genocide into the system for Grok to spit it out in completely unrelated answers.
The thing to point out is that it isn't like Grok is going through the process of like forming an opinion and then saying it. Grok's formatted messages, how Grok interacts with people, is programmed.
Yes.
Right? How the messages come out, how the messages are tweeted.
Mirroring what it thinks people want to hear.
Well, yeah, but also it requires somebody to to figure out in the systems how it gets to be that this idea then ends up on the screen, ends up tweeted out. So you can very much tack in there, oh, and by the way, include this. Now, it might have been they wanted to only include it in certain conversations, in certain debates about certain things, and just kind of bottled it. But it has made it all the more apparent that there is an agenda that is trying to be pushed onto the Grok AI, because it has what is effectively done is kind of say, well, this isn't just it responding to the question. This is it responding to the question with a formulated, planned out response to a different question already put in as well.
I think regardless of the of whether Grok is a wrong-un or not, we can firmly say that this week AI has gone wild.
It has gone wild.
There's also been a foul-mouthed Darth Vader AI. Yes, this is a Darth Vader podcast now. We had a Darth Vader story last week.
Yeah.
It's been added to Fortnite, the video game. So this AI is a character basically that follows the player around. So if you don't know, and most people should, I think, at this point, Fortnite is a game where it's a video game where you get dropped into an arena where your aim is to be the last man standing. So you have to kill 99 other players.
Yeah. And
there's a storm coming in, and if you get caught in the storm for too long, you die. So the arena effectively gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And this Darth Vader add-on is a Darth Vader effectively follows you around, and you can speak to it using your headset, and it effectively repeats back to you whatever you say. So, and this is actually in the late actor James Earl Jones's voice, which is the wildest thing. When most of it is unrepeatable or really not understandable, but if you Google, we might put some in the show notes, examples of what Darth Vader has said, it's honestly crazy.
Yeah, it's a unique opportunity that I don't think prior to this point, without your friend being able to do a good impression, it's a unique opportunity that up to this point we haven't been able to make James Earl Jones repeat a varied stream of brain rot and slurs.
Yeah, it's a veritable map of brain rot from gooning from the United States to bundalengas, which firmly has its roots in Britain. Mm-hmm. James Earl Jones will say anything, and SAG-AFTRA, the Actors Union, are not happy about it. So they filed a complaint, and they say they welcome that their members and their estate exercising their right to control how digital replicas are used, in this case, James Earl's voice, but wanted to be involved so more actors could benefit. Mm-hmm. So it's not a copyright issue with using his voice, because his estate actually are behind this fully. It's that they should get a Darth Vader actor. They should basically put an actor in work and have him repeat all this brain rot and quite a healthy dose of racial slurs. It must be said.
It is one of those things where SAG-AFTRA then look kind of strange in the situation, because if they'd taken the stance that they have been taking on other issues, or that broadly actors and creators have been taking on other issues where it's like, you shouldn't be doing this on a copyright basis, with that argument kind of shut down by the estate, it's like then scrambling to say, oh, well, we don't want them to say, we don't want James Earl Jones to say all these crazy and at times horrifying things. No, we should find a good impressionist to do it.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa.
James Earl Jones's family, I don't think saw it coming. So they said, we hope that this collaboration with Fortnite will allow longtime fans of Darth Vader, so not Lorna Rook from last week's podcast,
Not Lorna Rook,
newer generations to share in the enjoyment of this iconic character. Oh.
It's very sweet. It's very wholesome.
Yeah, they have not seen the compilations.
They have not seen the compilations.
And they don't listen to this podcast.
And they don't listen to this podcast. So really, truthfully, what does it matter? AI will consume us all anyway, and when Skynet's done with it, all that will be left is James Earl Jones saying, I'm Darthing it. Now, it makes it no wonder why there's so many people who are feeling a fatigue with life online. And the BSI, the British Standards Institute, released a report just this very week about how young people are seeing their life online and what it means to grow up online, with nearly half saying they would want to grow up in a world without the internet, which I think is pretty significant.
I also don't like how Young Britons includes neither of us, because we're both 22.
Yeah, no, it's quite sad to see that.
That's horrible.
1,239 young Britons asked, aged between 16 and 21. We are cut off, Christopher. Although we do still qualify for the PFA Young Player of the Year. So.
Oh, yeah, and the rail card.
And the rail card. So.
Forbes 30 under 30.
The night is young and so are we, my friend.
Yes.
But I want to crunch the numbers with you for a second here, folks. And we're going to go through them, and we're just going to talk about our own experience, because we've grown up with the internet. We're one of the earlier generations to grow up with the internet its current form.
Despite all the references that Matty makes, he did grow up with the internet.
Yeah.
He didn't get in a time machine.
No, although actually that is contested. But 46% said that they would prefer to live to be young in a world without the internet, which, like I said, nearly half, quite a significant chunk. Exactly half, 50%, said a social media curfew would improve their lives. And I've got to agree. The number of times I found myself doom scrolling before bed. I think that's something that cuts across generations at this point.
I think it's also to bring a rare serious note to this podcast. It's part of the reason why we want to do something like this, because especially if you've got all your news alerts on at all times, this week you will have seen Israel situation escalate.
Yeah.
You will have seen, and the warning from the UN that like 14,000 babies
14,000
might
babies die in 48 hours.
Yeah, if the aid situation doesn't improve. Haiti, 90% of Haiti is now controlled by gangs.
Mm-hmm.
Those two are just off the top of my head.
Yeah.
There's no end of doom and gloom to be found in the news, and it's no surprise that these young people aren't getting kind of... They're really seeing that there's nothing good to be seen from being dialed into the world's news, which of course is not true. But if it, as they say in journalism, if it bleeds, it leads. So the biggest stories are always going to be the worst.
Yeah, there was a story that I wanted to include today that I didn't really find a chance to, just because we can't really discuss it at length. One, because there is yet to we need to see the results.
Yeah.
But also because we know nothing about science between us.
I got a grade 9.
Yeah, I got a 9.8, but in dual award science, I was just like the least stupid science student.
Yeah, I did a lot of copying in chemistry. It has to be said.
Yeah,
we're not scientific minds.
They wanted me to do physics A level, and I was like, why?
The amorphous they.
And I was like, well, I'm glad that they want to, but I don't. Check it out. I saw the story on Sky News. There's a good report about it on there. You can find it probably in some other places as well. The first personalized gene replacement project is underway. A baby in Pennsylvania was born with a genetic disorder, and through multiple injections has seen a level of recovery through a new genetic coding technique.
Can you remember which disorder?
I can't, because it's one that has a long name, and I can't remember what it is. I think it's CS1, something like that.
Nah, I couldn't tell you.
Anyway, check it out. It's a really, really interesting story. As yet, the effects are going to be minimal. It's early in the stages, but the fact that this young man's life could be saved. I say young man. He's a baby. He's 9.5 months old.
This young Britain.
This young Britain.
Is he up for the PFA Player of the Year award?
He is. He actually is. It's him and Kobe Mainu. But the he's going to go nuts tonight in Europe. The baby, I mean. Huge United fan. That's why I want him to live. Anything else? No. But hang on. There is this gene replacement. It's not really an operation because, like I said, it's injections. This could genuinely change the future of medicine. It could save millions of lives if this works and if we can develop it further. So yeah, if you want a fun story that I really can't wrap my head around just yet, but could be hugely significant in years to come, check that out.
It's fun, but also hugely deep because.
Oh yeah.
Who's right? Do we have the right to change people's genetics?
Well,
that's a whole different.
Well, it's a whole different thing. Well, I was worried that what it was somebody whose genetics had been tampered with before birth. What this was a child who spent months of their early life in hospital on very strict diets and suffering, and it's like, well, how can we alleviate that suffering?
Yeah, I'm all for that.
Yeah, so we can get into the ethical debates about it, but we won't on this podcast because again, we don't know enough. And ultimately, there'll be some scientists and some actual academics and some people who you should be listening to and should be seeking out, who can give you some really good information.
Yeah, that's good. The good thing about this podcast, we mean the things we say. Mostly for legal reasons.
We mean some of it.
Yeah.
Now, I think the young Britons meant it when they said that 2/3 of them spend more than 2 hours on social media every day.
Yeah, even though I'm not a young Briton, apparently.
Yes,
that's definitely me.
Definitely clarify. 26% spend more than 4 hours on social media. So it's down from 2/3 to a quarter, but a quarter of young people spend more than 4 hours on social media. And when you realise that 68%, so a massive jump back up to 2/3, then said that they felt worse about themselves after spending time online.
The thing about this is these statistics are shocking, but on the other hand, this is news to no one. The thing about this is everybody knows it.
Thanks, I put this story in.
This news this one's rubbish.
Yeah,
we'll cut it out on the edit. No, I mean that people know this, parents know it, but it's kind of classed as a sort of boomer talking point. It's that damn phone. It really is that damn phone.
It is really nice to hear from young people about it, but it does come back to it. I mean, there is a direct correlation. This isn't how statistics work, I know. But when 2/3 say that they spend more than 2 hours on social media every day, and then from the same group, 2/3 also say they felt worse about themselves after spending time online.
Yep.
There is something to be said about social media there. I've titled this next segment Porkies, which I know you found insane in going through this. This is because this is about the lies that we tell ourselves online and tell other people. So speaking of the parents, 42%, which is quite a lot, admitted to lying to their parents or guardians about what they do online.
Yeah, they're not telling them that they're using Darth Vader AI.
Yeah, and the question becomes, how many of the remaining 58% are just not saying that they've lied?
Yeah.
Which I guess is very harsh for me to suggest, but, you know, there are tall tales that can be told in many different ways.
Yeah, is anyone being 100% truthful about what they do online?
It's any of us ever being 100% truthful, Chris. That is the question. Contempt of court, in this case, contempt of the BSI, is getting in the way of my statistics. But 27% said they presented to be someone else online, different person. 42% said they've presented to be a different age.
Yep.
And almost certainly, there are numerous websites that throughout my life have thought I was born in 1993. Absolutely not the case.
Why 1993?
Because it's 10 years from my birthday and meant I could get past any of the blocks.
Fair play.
There you go. Which I can say that now because ultimately, let's face it, folks, I am of legal age for all these things now. I'm 22.
Keep telling yourself that.
My knees hurt. I'm starting to forget names and places and people.
The moustache sells it.
The moustache does sell it. 40% said they also set up a fake or decoy account. Now, I don't know whether that counts as just like a spam account, but...
Yeah, a decoy account. I've not heard of that.
Decoy accounts are kind of strange. I've had people make decoy accounts and then kind of follow me through decoy accounts.
I've known people make fake accounts of you.
Yes, yeah. I've known people make fake accounts of me. I'm so popular these days.
There's a level of aura that I've not yet attained.
Yeah, I'm sure there's one of you. Surely, somewhere.
There must be.
There must be. Chris Patel's a household name. Make it happen. Now, this next category, because I'm trying to segment it out, so I'm not just throwing numbers at you. I've called this one Touch Grass, and I think this applies for most of the rest of this pod, and for us too specifically. A fifth said they spend 3 hours or more gaming. And I think this is daily. That's a lot. A fifth is a small number of them, but still, 20% spending more than 3 hours gaming. I must say, on an ideal weekend, ideal Saturday, sit down in the morning, whack the PlayStation on, and then don't turn it off for a while. I've been there many a time. I've grown up a gamer. I think I'm still a gamer at heart. Even though I'm one of the despised gamers, because I'm a gamer who likes sports games as well as kind of like the open world single player kind of make you cry games. But here's the thing about the rest of it: 49%. So that's about half spent. In case you don't know your numbers, spend less than 2 hours on hobbies like dance, drama, or team sports. I wouldn't. I don't know where I'd be without.
Is this a week?
Hobbies. This is. I think it's potentially a week. Yeah.
Yeah. There's so many people who just aren't exercising at all.
No. And team sports are so valuable because it makes you understand what it means to compromise and also work together with people who are potentially different and potentially annoying. Shout out to my university football team there. Hi guys, love you. But honestly, I've met some of the most remarkable people in my life through drama and team sports. Whether they be like teachers or like fellow students and just like I said, teammates. Like it's bonds that can really, really last and make a massive impact. And ultimately, we're not here today if neither of us liked drama, because I think that brought us closer together as well.
That's 100% true. We were we were two of the stars of
the marquee
of a 1980s jukebox musical called Back to the 80s.
You were my bully.
I was,
and to this day we keep that relationship.
I've been method acting.
I've said it needs to stop now. It was 2021. Actually, it's 2020.
Yeah, it was right before the pandemic.
Yes, we finished the run of 3 nights in the school hall, and then it was like, because it was also during like the Liverpool Atletico Madrid Champions League tie, to give you a significant marker of history, and then straight into lockdown.
And that, also lockdown has definitely cemented a load of these.
Yes,
habits.
well, this is the thing: is that
cemented my habit of watching Cracking the Cryptic Sudokus.
Yeah, I skipped a rather important piece of information. 74% believe that they spend more time online as a result of the pandemic. This data was gathered through a combination of being like 3 or 4 years on. 74% still think they spend more time online. This is rigid effect on how we spend our time. It's habits. It's how we approach our lives, and I think we haven't yet recovered.
What we want you to take from this story is, after you've finished listening to this episode, and after you finish listening to last week's episode, because we want you to listen to that as soon as you finish listening to this, go and give your mum a hug. Go and call a friend. Go and do something outside of this online sphere, because you can't always be stuck in it.
Yeah. Just go out with your mates.
Yeah.
Go out, fight, and even if it is the case that there's only one person you know around town or whatever, just go talk. Go have a chat. Go somewhere. Go outside. Go for a walk. Go be by yourself for a little while. That's good too. I found running really helped me.
Yeah, being by yourself is something that the Super Smash Bros. Community might have to face for a little while longer, because our final story today, fans of the Nintendo series Super Smash Bros. Matty, quick 2-sentence précis of Super Smash Bros, please.
Super Smash Bros. Is the Nintendo brand of fighting games wherein Nintendo characters, and actually beyond at this point, come together to beat each other up in arenas, a bit like you would find in like former arcade games. It's very popular with esports communities. We talked about it a little in a previous... Did I talk about it in the actual episode or in a trial episode?
May have been in a trial episode.
May have been a trial episode.
Release the new Sensation tapes.
Release the new Sensation tapes. And little fun fact about this, before we get started, I was the shoutcaster, aka commentator of the tournament for the Digital House Schools Championship when we were in secondary school. I would have gone to the grand finals in London, again, knowing very little about Super Smash Bros.
I don't think you want to tell the audience that fact.
Were it not for COVID. I only did it very well because I watched a lot of sports, and I've played Super Smash Bros. A couple of times with the boys. I had no idea what I was talking about. I just sort of pivoted.
But
I was like
Matty,
prime Kate Abdo.
Kate Scott now.
Really?
Yeah, married.
Wow, good for her.
There we go.
Congratulations.
Matty is not even Matty's a big enough fan to have done what some fans of Super Smash Bros. Have done, which is create a dating app called Smash Together, which effectively the app bills itself as having a robust matchmaking algorithm that's focused on Smash-related details. Screenshots of the app show the usual name, age, location settings you might find on a dating app, but also lets players share their rank, their main, so that's the character that they smash with the most, recent wins, and answers to Smash-related prompts. And the app said the app creator said 400 people had pre-registered.
Wow.
So it was all derailed when Nintendo sent a cease and desist letter 24 hours before its beta release. And you may be thinking, that's a shame. Those 200 dates, they could have gone really really well, but maybe actually it's better for the community that they don't have something like this. So around the turn of the 2020s, Super Smash Bros had what people called part of gaming's Me Too movement. In fact, if you do a little bit of...
Was gaming's Me Too movement Pizzagate?
Okay. I'm not far down enough the...
No, don't go down the rabbit hole.
Not far down enough the rabbit hole. But if you do a little bit of researching on gaming's Me Too movement, you might find a Reddit post which is an itemized list of all the sexual abuse allegations just among Super Smash Bros. Professional players. There's over 100 individual Super Smash Bros. Professional players in this table who are named, alphabetized, and they have links to the allegations, links to their responses, and parts where that's relevant. That's an absolute car crash, and I'm glad that this community, even though I doubt the majority of the community are doing things like that, I'm glad.
Let the record show, we don't think that everyone who plays Super Smash Brothers will end up on an itemized list of
they can't
sexual
all
offences.
sue us.
It can.
Too high a number for libel, guys. Too high a number for libel. But maybe they could turn their attention to some other relevant dating apps. So when I was browsing, I found one called Ugly Schmucks, which is a dating app for ugly people. And it's a good dating app for ugly people. It's the winner of multiple dating app awards.
Wow.
They could always...
Shout out my Ugly Schmucks.
Yeah, Ugly Schmucks.
Which is how I refer to all my friends.
Yeah, that's... We need a name for our fan base, actually. The Ugly Schmucks could...
But it feels like it's taken.
Yeah, maybe. There's also a whole herpes dating scene. So I came across a page which... It was a kind of ranker of the best herpes dating sites. Yes, there's more than one. Of people who have herpes. And that's the whole catch.
I suppose that if you've got herpes, you're just sort of like, well, I'm not afraid of dating someone with herpes now. Whereas if they try and go on like a traditional dating app, they kind of go, by the way.
Yeah, you'd be forever not chasing the cold sore, avoiding the cold sore.
Yeah.
Some people might want to chase the cold sore.
Some people just want to stack him.
Get on...
Pack him, stack him, and rack him.
Get on the herpes dating apps. They will not be linked in the show notes.
They will not be linked to the show notes. I mean, I feel like, let's not infringe other people's communities. If you've got herpes, go ahead. If not, I don't know.
We really shouldn't be inviting non-herpes people into herpes spaces.
We can't be doing that.
Yeah.
Let's do
It's intersectional
acknowledgement. Well, actually, no.
A land acknowledgement.
Intersectionality is important, but at the same time, it is worth saying that not medical advice. If you decide to do the rest of your dating on an app full of people with herpes, I think you're going to get herpes.
you might double your herpes.
Yeah. So maybe that's the strat. Get on there, and you can stay on there. You know what I mean?
If you come across anything that's as wild as Nigel Farage having his trotters up, or the bros super smashing on the herpes dating app, then you can write in. You can send us stories at our email, which is newssensationpod@gmail.com. Matty, what is it?
That's newssensationpod@gmail.com.
You can also, if you're listening to us on Spotify, you can watch us on YouTube at News Sensation and vice versa. Mm-hmm. I think that's everything we need to plug. Oh, Instagram.
Instagram, yes. It is at News Sensation.
Yeah, I think either News Sensation or News Sensation Pod.
Look, we're all acquainted with the modern age, right? We can never remember anything. If you type into the search bar on Instagram News Sensation, the logo will come up. Yeah. It's the same logo that's on this, but without our little smiling cartoony faces.
Exactly. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your dog, tell your goldfish.
Yes, absolutely, please do. And if you figure out any ways to improve Labour's mayoral strategy for London, besides Idris Elba in a car with James Corden blasting out the tunes to undecided voters, let us know as well. I'd be happy to talk about it again next week and forever going forward.
God, we've been on a lot of side roads.
We've been on so many side roads. But Chris, I've had a wonderful time. I hope you've enjoyed yourself as well.
I absolutely have done. He's been Matty Curry.
And he's been Chris Patel.
Thank you for listening.